Hi there, this is Teri from Stamping Magic. Welcome back to my channel. Today's project is a 6-inch square card. I've used the Above the Clouds stamp set and coordinating punch to create it, together with some of our Bird Ballad Designer Series paper. The sentiment comes from the Free as a Bird stamp set. Now this is a very dimensional card with the 3D hot air balloon as the main focus. So let's get started. These are all the measurements you need for the various elements required to create this card. So if you're interested in reproducing it, if you take a screenshot, you can refer to it later. Before we do start, I just wanted to show you that you don't actually need to have 12-inch by 12-inch card to create a 6-inch square card base. You want to cut 2 pieces of card, one measuring 6 inches by 6 inches and the other measuring 6 inches by 6.5 inches. Now score the 6.5 inch side at 1/2 inch, fold on the score line, and then just notch each end of that long tab. Then you can apply your glue to this tab and stick the other piece on top of it, so the 2 sections are joined, and this will give you a 12-inch by 6-inch piece. Now inside you will see the join, but most of this will be covered by the inside mat, so you won't notice it. I'm going to start by stamping the large balloon. I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink because I'm going to colour using my Stamping Blends alcohol markers. Now on my original card I stamped and coloured 4 balloons. I want to do 5 this time and give the balloon a slightly fuller look. So I've already prepared 4, and this will be my 5th and last balloon. I'm also going to stamp the front panel for the card, and I'm using the trio of smaller balloons here. Again, I'm using Memento ink, and I want to stamp them once in the top left corner and then again towards the bottom right corner. I'm using Calypso Coral and Pool Party to colour this balloon, and I do this in a 3-step process. I start with the light marker, then add some depth using the dark marker, and then I just blend together using the light again. And I tend to use this method most of the time when I'm colouring with the blends. So I'm just using my light marker here to blend the Pool Party, and then I'm going to switch to the light Calypso Coral. Now I am working with a very dry marker for this one. It's running out fast, unfortunately, but I do a layer of light first of all, and then I'm going to add the dark, and I'm placing this mainly on the left hand side. And then finally I'll switch back to the light Calypso Coral and I'll just blend them together. I'll punch this out using the hot air balloon punch, although if you haven't got the punch, it's such a simple shape to cut around. And I'd forgotten to stamp the little basket, so I'm doing that now. Now you need to stamp 2 of these because we're going to make it slightly dimensional as well. So again, using Memento, and then I'm colouring these again with a 3-step method using the crumb cake markers. So starting with the light and covering the whole piece, and then I'm going to add some dark along the left hand side and then blend with the light again. And I can use the punch to pop these out as well. I'm going to use a piece of stamping sponge and Pool Party ink to colour the background of my front panel. Now, I'm not covering the whole thing. I want to leave white space around each set of balloons. And this, when it's finished, will give the impression of clouds in the sky around those balloons. Well, in my head it does anyway. So I'm just gently sponging all the areas in between. I'm now going to use the blends markers to colour all the hot air balloons. Now the colours I'm using here I've taken from the colours used in the Bird Ballad Designer Series paper. I'll use the same 3-step colouring method that I've used before to colour each of these. And the colours I'm using in the order that I use them are Daffodil Delight, Old Olive, Pool Party, Petal Pink and Calypso Coral. I'm using the dark crumb cake to colour the tiny little baskets. The final bit of stamping for this panel is to add the birds. Again, I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink. I think the hardest thing here is knowing when to stop. It's tempting to fill in all the space. I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine with the subtle embossing folder. And this is what it looks like when it's done. I love this folder. This panel can now be layered onto its crumb cake mat. I'm using a sentiment from the stamp set A Good Man, and I'm going to stamp it onto a scrap of Whisper White card towards the bottom of it though. This I'll punch out using the Story label punch. And you want to make sure that sentiment is positioned at the bottom of this label. You also need to punch out one from Crumb Cake. I'm going to position the stamped label on top of the Crumb Cake one, just so there's a border of Crumb Cake showing along that bottom edge. I'm going to add the sentiment piece to the bottom of the front panel, and I want it centered. So I'm going to use my grid paper to help me do this. So I've just put some temporary adhesive on the back and stuck it to my grid paper. Now I'm going to add glue to the sentiment piece, just the top part of it, and then slide it under the panel, making sure it's central to that grid paper line. And then I can adjust it just slightly as needed to make sure I've got it even and centered. And I can remove that temporary adhesive just by running my finger over it. I'm now going to prepare the remaining panels. So I've got some bird ballad paper that I'm going to layer onto Crumb Cake, and some more of the paper that I'm going to layer onto a Whisper White square. I've also prepared the inside panel for the card, so I've stamped and coloured the trio of balloons, and I've also added a little strip of the matching paper along the bottom, and this will go inside the card. The smaller panel can then be added onto the centre of the larger one. This whole section can then be added onto the front of the card base. And then the stamped panel can also be added. I've got my 5 balloons here, and I'm going to use my Simply Scored board to help me score a line down the centre of each of them. Now I've drawn a line using a marker down one of the grooves on the board, and I'm just using that to centre my balloons and then make the score line. And this doesn't have to be precise, just having that score line there will help you fold the balloons in half. You can make small adjustments as you fold them. You also want to punch out another balloon from some scrap Whisper White card. You can then go ahead and fold each of these in half, and as you do, make sure the edges meet exactly. This will make for a much neater result. As you've folded each one, burnish it with your bone folder. Once all 5 of your coloured balloons have been folded, you can join them together. So you're going to add glue to one half of one of the balloons and then stick another to it, making sure that those edges are lined up exactly. Once they are, you can add glue to half the balloon again and attach the next one. And just repeat this until all 5 are glued together. Now you want to add glue to both halves on the base of this 3D balloon, and you're going to position it onto your white hot air balloon. Now you'll find that the coloured ones, the span of them is wider than the white one, so you've got to ease it in and push and slide it so it fits. You'll find the centre of the balloon lifts up slightly to allow you to do this, but you really want those edges to meet so the white balloon is not going to show once it's on the card. And once you've done that, you can zhuzh up the panels to make it pretty. Now for the basket, there's a white border all the way round the basket. You just want to trim that border off the top and the bottom of the basket. Just make it a little slimmer. And then add a dimensional to one of the baskets. I'm just using a mini dimensional here. If you place the 3D balloon where you think you want it on the card, then you can add glue to the little basket and position that first. Then you can add more glue to the back of the 3D balloon and position that slightly over the top edge of that little basket. And then finally you can add the other little basket with the dimensional on the back. And that's it, the card is finished. I do like it with the addition of that extra panel. It helps the balloon fold flat if you did want to send this in an envelope. With my original one, because you've got that middle panel that sticks up, it doesn't really fold flat. I have made one additional card, and this one just uses the 4 panels like my original card for the balloon. It also uses papers from the 6-inch Subtles stack. Now, although by adding that extra panel to the balloon, it enables the balloon to flatten out somewhat, it would be nice if when you give this card, you give it in a box where the balloon won't get crushed at all. So in my next video, I'm going to show you how to make this box. Now this is suitable for quite dimensional cards. It's got a depth of 7/8 of an inch, so plenty of room for this balloon. So I hope to see you again in that video. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notifications bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. Bye for now.